welcome to Around the Region. I'm Kayla Buchanan and I am outside freezing my buns off. It's -31 today to illustrate a very important winter safety point, and it's not the wind chill. In this parking lot, I am surrounded by slippery ice. And if you were to slip and fall, you're not only at danger for breaking something, but concussions. If you fall and bump your head, you're at major risk of suffering a concussion. And it's not just walking to your car in the parking lots or walking to your office or walking to your home. It's kids tobogganing down hills can get bumped, fall and hit their heads. It's people out on the local rinks playing hockey. It's the ski hills, snowboarders, skiers. Everybody is at risk, especially in the wintertime. So on today's show, we're going to start off talking about concussions with some local experts. It's just one of those things you hear about all the time and think it'll never happen to me. But the truth is, it may already have.
It's basically a bruise to the brain. A concussion is like a bruise to the brain. And it's very often, I mean, we all grow up, you know, in sports. How often did you wear a helmet as a kid, right? And there's a lot about concussion that they've learned now that happens later. The problem with a brain injury is that it can occur without you realizing it occurred, and the effects of it can happen years later.
And if you've suffered a concussion before, you're at a higher risk of experiencing another one.
If concussions occur without the hockey player taking, or any sports person taking rest and not going on till the effects of the concussion are cleared, then the person is liable to have a brain injury. So the recommendation is that you usually go back to your sport, especially if it's hockey or football, 1 week after you've had no symptoms.
You know, with a trauma such as a car accident, when somebody's head is smushed up, right, bruised, broken, battered, well then it's fairly obvious. Doctors know what to look for and then they treat you accordingly. But when it's just a little bump to the head and you're on the sports field and you don't want to get off the field, you know, you're 15 and you're in the middle of a great game, and so it's really important that coaches and parents both are aware that, you know, that one little tiny bump to the head can cause just as much damage as falling off a horse, getting hit by a car, etc.
So what signs or symptoms should we be on the lookout for when someone takes a tumble or a big hit?
See, with somebody with a concussion, you're supposed to wake them every hour, right? Or check their eyes every hour. And that's because they may have one pupil that's dilating properly and the other one that's not. Disorientation, change to personality, vomiting. If somebody vomits after a fall or after a smack to the head, they need to definitely get into the ER right away.
Well, the first thing you do is if they've lost consciousness and missed even a few seconds, or have no memory of how they slipped and fell, for example. How did they slip and fall? Then they have suffered a concussion. Now, there is usually the follow-up in the hospital will involve some tests, but mostly it is a clinical thing that people watch for vomiting and watch for other things.
A lot of little things, like as I said, minor personality changes or dizziness or irritability, you know, something that wasn't present before that injury is something to keep an eye on.
And those symptoms can lead to major complications.
You know, often it's called the invisible injury because it's not visible at all. Some people have no physical symptoms whatsoever and it's completely mental. So there are, depending on the injury, I mean, you may see an x-ray or a picture of somebody's brain, an MRI, where it looks like buckshot went off in their brain. There are just big gaping holes in between those neurons, right? So it's mostly just that trauma leaves them, yes, absolutely depressed. There's a very, very big link with depression and brain injury. And there's also a really big link with addiction. Alcoholism and drug addiction are big links with brain injury as well. And a lot of it is just based on that personality change, as well as undermining your self-confidence. When you know something's kind of wrong with you or a little bit different and you can't pinpoint it, nobody else seems to see it, you know, you feel lost, and certainly it's easy to spiral into depression with that.
The brain will heal itself. There is no medication. Rest and avoiding repeated injuries is the best way to heal a concussion. Repeated concussion, sometimes there's no healing, and we see that nowadays in football players and hockey players.
And it's other athletes as well. When HR returns after this quick break, we have the true story of an athlete whose serious concussions cost him more than just his career.